Welcome to the Mamas at Work podcast with your host, me, Heather Rose. I'm so excited you're here and I hope you're ready to learn because I have some amazing women coming on to this podcast to talk all about entrepreneurship and being a mom and how we handle it all and juggle it all and maybe even balance. I love to talk about people's passions and find out what makes them excited about what they do and hopefully help the rest of us feel not so alone. So let's get going. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Mama's Work podcast with Heather Rose. I have today with me Tracy Gunn, and we were just talking about it. She doesn't exactly have like a title because a lot of people are like, oh, I'm a business coach. I'm a this, I'm a that. She does a lot of different things. Apparently, she owns a candy store that I did not know about, but that's so exciting. And she also what's really fascinating to me is she helps people with businesses once they're ready to be done with them. She helps them get ready to sell their business, which that's kind of a dream at some point, because for people, I have noticed with entrepreneurs, especially, we kind of be like, I want to get on to the next thing. I want to get on to the next thing. Right. So to be able to do that, but profitably is incredible. So hi, Tracy. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited. Yeah, candy store was my first gig. That's the one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's you know what? It was anyway, it was my first foray after homeschooling. My kids went to school and everything kind of exploded in my life a little bit. And I was like, I'm going to make a business. Sure. Yeah. Everything's overwhelming. Why not? And so I did. Not? And, but it was my own little world I could control. And it was my saving grace. And it's called Life is Sweet, which, when things are not going great in your life and you just have to say that all the time, it helps you remember that things are going to get better. So
I love that so much. Well, okay, let's talk about that a little bit because we had a little bit of a similar starting story, right? Mm-hmm. Because I was the stay-at-home homeschooling mom and you as well. So what was that kind of transition when your kids did then go to school and then you started businesses?
So my kids every year, I stayed at home when they were born. I loved being with them. I wanted 10. I have 3. And I know, right? Once I had 3, I was like, I might as well have 10 because he put us over the edge. He still does sometimes, but anyway, and then I homeschooled and I was like, well, I know how to read, I know how to write, I know how to do math. We'll try it. Right. The idea of sending them off somewhere for 8 hours a day was hard for me. Yeah. Selfishly, I wanted to be able to teach them what I wanted, that kind of stuff. And so we did that, but every year we would evaluate. And I think, it's great for all people to do such a thing. How is this working? Is it working? Do we continue? Is this working for everybody? Yes. Is everybody getting their needs met? You're going to miss things, but overall, are they, learning to be good people? Am I helping them to overcome their difficulties? Are they learning how to learn? Are they doing the things they need to do? And so eventually they got to be 7th and 8th grade, my girls, and they, at that point, this was, a while ago because I'm older, but they couldn't just go into school. If they went to school, in high school, they'd have to start completely over. They wouldn't get credits and things like that. And so at 7th and 8th grade, we were like, okay, this is the time to figure out what are we doing for the next piece. And both of them wanted to do sports, musical instruments, things like that I wasn't really doing with them. And we're like, all right, this is the year to try it. And then my son was in 2nd grade at the time, and he was like, I don't want to be home with just you. So he went to school too, and that was that. So all of a sudden, I had empty nest. And then, and so then it was, okay, we went from being together 24/7 every day to seeing each other in passing, which was a very huge adjustment. And then I started my business a couple months later. And so then it was fitting in the business. They grew up in the candy store. They learned to wait on customers. They worked for me. They often call me Tracy because, everybody else around them called me Tracy and I wouldn't always answer to mom. So they always call me, they're like, Tracy. So anyway, my point is but they learned what it looks like, which I thought was a great, even though they went to school at that point, it was a great education for them about that you can learn and do anything you really set your mind to.
Yeah. No, that's fascinating. Was the candy store something you had like thought about trying? No, you just
No,
look at you. Like, hey, let's try it.
I had written up a whole business plan for a thrift store kind of idea. Those moms, like when the season changes and everybody's grown, you go through all the clothes and you just want them out of your house. You don't care who takes them. You just want them gone. So I had this whole business plan about that and about having like a community thrift store where everything would be $1 and people, because it would be a place where people could just bring their stuff. Anyway, I was looking at spaces and there was a space in our downtown area. And I thought, gosh, this would be a great candy store. And we didn't really have one downtown. And I was like, ooh, and like, cause the floors creaked and it just had that ambiance. And I was like, this would be a cool spot for that. And then I do like shiny objects and off I went. So I just said, you know what? I can figure it out. It was reasonable. I'm smart. Why not? So I did it. Yeah.
And that's the one that you've kept.
That's the one I still have. We're 16 years plus.
Wow.
Crazy. Yeah. That's crazy.
Amazing. So I'm assuming you have a physical store. Do you also sell online?
Yeah. COVID, we were always had a website and stuff, but COVID, at that time I had 2 candy stores, 2 restaurants when that happened. And, we had 2 stores full of Easter candy. We had to go online and just liquidate. And we did great. I mean, we doubled that year. We've been struggling. That first year was the easiest, right? Everybody was home and everyone was buying online. And now that the world is kind of more open, now you have to really figure out your footing and your email and your, all of the pieces that make that a continuing process. Whereas we had figured that out already for our locals. So we're learning. We're just plugging away and learning and expanding and meeting new candy friends all over the country, which is fun.
Oh, all the candy people know each other. I like that.
Yes.
Well, okay, then what were the other businesses? Because you have the one now where you help people like get their business ready to sell. So what were those businesses and what got you into that, like that mindset of, I want to move on. So how do I sell this to somebody and make money?
So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming we're all talking to entrepreneurs. Like we have shiny objects and we just keep piling on like, I'll figure it out. So 4 businesses later, and this pre-COVID, I just kind of hit the wall. I had a brand new grandson and they live in North Carolina. And I thought, gosh, I don't want to do this. Like I had 2 restaurants. So I was working from like 7 a.m. until 1 or 2 p.m. every day. I was running all of them in some way, shape, or form. I didn't really have managers. I'm not going to say I was doing it well, but I was doing it. And I just hit the wall and I thought, gosh, I don't want to do this. So I thought, like everybody, you would ask your audience, okay, you want to sell your business. What do you do? I would say 99% of people say, I'll hire a broker, right? That's what most people think to do. And he came in and he took a look at everything and he was like, there's nothing worth selling here. And I was like, what? Ouch. Yes. Pain. So I cried a little bit. And then I thought, okay, is he right? Maybe, but is it fixable? Right. And so that entrepreneurial spirit of like, let's see, what can I do? I can do anything for 6 more months. Like, so I just come in, I put my head down and I had this big restaurant. It was like 6,500 square feet. This was the biggest time suck. This was the one that had me out till 2 a.m, and I just thought, okay, what can I do? He doesn't see the value. We're making money. I mean, we're rich, but we were doing okay. We were covering our bills and it was only 2 years old. And I thought, okay, what can I do? Right. So I started to come up with a plan and came up with an exit strategy. And then I implemented systems to get myself out of it. Because I think, sometimes as owners, it's just easier for us to do the things instead of delegating and teaching or paying. Yes. Sometimes we pay someone and it doesn't go well. Then we think, forget it. I'll just do it. I'll take it back. Right. It's the same with our kids. It's not different. When the kids take 2 hours and they load the dishwasher wrong, and my mother said once, she said, do you want them to load the dishwasher? Or do you want them to load the dishwasher right? That's 2 different things. Yep. And you have to pick. Right. So same thing, but I got to the place where as I shifted my mindset that I wanted to be out and I wanted to be able to sell it. And if I didn't sell, I was just going to close and liquidate. So, okay, what can I do to get myself out of it? And the more you do, the more it kind of snowballs and you get more time, right? And you get kind of excited. And it's really just a shift, right? Shift from I'm going to grow and scale and do all the things to shift to how do I get myself out of this more? How do I delegate? If I were to sell it and have a buyer today, how could I do that without it falling apart? If I go away for 2 weeks, is it going to be a disaster? All of those kind of things. So anyway, I'll shorten my story, but basically what happened was I wound up finding a buyer in 3 months. And he was sitting at my bar and he was watching what we were doing. Like I had installed a customer loyalty program. I had like an inventory system for the alcohol, found some, someone was stealing from me. So all of a sudden my profits went up. And there were all these things that I had done over the first couple months that he could see. And, right. It's easy to sell something if you can see the value, right? An iPhone, nobody has to talk you into that, right? It just is, the value is just right there for you to see. And so, yeah. And so he was my buyer. And, so this is how I started my new business is, I really felt for people who, like me, are invested so much time, money, energy, right? How many birthday parties do you miss or vacations do you not go on or ballet recitals and all the things we miss because we're building this business. And then for someone to say it's not worth anything. So, and then the other part of that is that there's a statistic out there that only 10% of all businesses that are listed for sale actually sell. So this guy didn't even bother listing it, but only 10%. Like it's totally true. It's crazy, right? And so nobody talks about that. Nobody knows that. And so this is like my big passion project of really like ringing the bell, like, okay, because let's be honest, everybody starts their business with the goal of someday selling it, right? I'm going to retire. I'm going to whatever. I'm going to give to it. Eventually it's going to give to me, right?
Yeah.
And then what if, right? Then there's this other statistic. I'm like going to be full of happiness and sunshine, but that in the next 5 years, 10 to 12 million baby boomers, small business owners are going to retire. So most of them are planning on selling, but most of them have zero idea that most of them won't sell.
Oh,
and
boy.
Most of them don't know. So what's coming, right? Like this tidal wave of sellers in a market, but the businesses are not prepared. And in a market where most don't sell, like this is catastrophe written all over it. So like, this is my passion project. So this is how I started the business. And I partnered with somebody who does this for big corporate. She does it for small businesses. She's in the UK. This is her passion project. She loves the backside of things and I like going out and talking about it and telling people my story. And she does all the fulfillment part. So, cause that's what she's great at. So yeah, I mean, this is how we started with this. So I still have the candy store. The others are gone. We do the e-com. I brought in a partner, which is another way to exit, by the way, is you can bring in a partner to earn in that you can trust and teach, and then you can remove yourself. So we've been doing that, but there's a lot of different ways to leave. But anyway, so that's sorry, I get long-winded, but I get really excited about talking about it. So
no, it's fascinating. Well, and I had no idea about the statistics. Like that is, well, and do you think that is because people aren't prepared when they're going to sell?
It's part of it. It's part of it. The other part is that brokers, okay. So you know how when you sell a house and a broker, sometimes they go the extra mile and other brokers just list it and then they don't call you so every broker is different, right? So the expectation though, is that they're going to be out there peddling it for you, right? Like I can put up a website selling my thing, but if nobody knows my website exists, right? And nobody's telling anybody about my website, nobody's going to buy. It's the same thing. And so most brokers take and here's another one. Brokers take 10% usually. So if you sold for 200,000, they're going to take 20,000.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Like if you think about that. So part of it's not being prepared. Part of it is just the system. You know, a lot of people feel like brokers are deal killers because they only have to tell you about who's really serious and who gave a real offer. So they don't always have to communicate it. There's other ways you can do it. And that's part of it is that we've really thought of it very narrow-minded, which my broker, who is a very nice man and we're friendly, but like he looked at it from his narrow lens and it wasn't worth his time.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And he didn't see the value. But that doesn't mean it was true. It was true to him, but that's his, like, it didn't fit into what he was looking for, which is something he could easily sell for big profits. Right.
Yeah.
And so really there's this huge market that's coming, like all these businesses are coming to market, but nobody's talking about this.
Yeah.
Like very few people. And so some of, I'm reaching out to brokers all the time saying, if you have anybody that is on your dead pile because it's not moving, or anybody that you just didn't even want to list, send them my way. I'll give you a commission, but like, because wouldn't it be a terrible thing? Like, I'm sure you would feel this, is that you worked so hard, you built something, it provided a life for you, your family, and then it just went away. Like there was no exit. There was no payment at the end. Like that, I feel like business owners are like superheroes. We work extra hard. We give ourselves the hardest job in the world because we're passionate and excited about creating something from nothing. For all of those things to just disappear, I think it would be devastating.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay, I want to ask, because my audience is, young mom entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
Who probably have pretty young businesses,
Yeah.
Are there things that we can do like from the beginning to help set us up for success when we do eventually want to sell? Like, do you have like quick tips?
Yeah, sure. So, first is that you have to think about, I don't know if they've done business plans or not. Business plans are, most people only do them if they're going to apply for money, right? But they're great strategy, even a strategic plan of like where you want to be in 5 years, 10 years, right? Because having a direction is really helpful. It removes it removes like something comes your way and you're like, that doesn't fit in with my big plan. And you leave it on the table, right? It just immediately filters things that maybe don't serve what your big purpose is, right? And so I always tell even people, who are 70 and have never planned, I say, first things first is you have to think about how do you want to exit? Like, what's the goal? Okay. And whether that's having $1 million business, $2 million, $100,000, whatever it is, there's no wrong answer, but it's your opportunity to dream of what this might look like, right? And for them, obviously, it's a shorter time frame. But like as your young moms, like, what does this look like in 20 years when your kids go away to college and move away? Is this going to be your full-time gig? Is it something you want to sell? Is it something your kids are going to take over? Like, what is the idea? And the nicest part, it's just a plan. Plans can change. We know children. We have children. We know the plans change all the time. Right.
Like every minute.
Every minute. Right. We're going to, and we're always reacting and pivoting. COVID taught us all that too. So the first thing is like exit strategy. And that's like kind of fancy term. I like to call it an exit plan. And I think think about who might be your buyer. What do you want to sell? Like, because there's pieces, right? So like I have a brick and mortar candy store, but I also, that's 5 different, like ice cream, candy, cupcakes, chocolate, fudge, right? All those, they could be their own things that I could carve off, or I could sell it as a whole. But then now I have e-com as well. But I also have a customer list that's valuable. Right? So there are things that you can build that maybe your bottom line isn't as big as you hope, but there's other assets that come along with it that make it extra valuable. And so thinking about what are those things? What are those things I'm going to put on, like whether it's a loyalty program, how do you communicate with your customers? How do you grow your customer list? How does your sales cycle work? How do you find your customers? When you can lock those pieces into like a system or a standard operating procedure and document it, now you can just either, turn up the flame, turn down the flame, but now you've got it documented. It's not all just up in your head and you reacting. So the exit plan talks about a lot of those things, like, and why do you want, so some of my guys who are thinking, I'm usually dealing with older people, why are you exiting? Well, I'm tired. I'm working 20 hours a day. I'm doing this and or it just could be, I want to go see my grandson more. I want more time. So that exit could be very different. They might be able to put systems in place and keep their business and not be there very much. Right. Yeah. So there's different ways to do that. But I would say, think long term. That's hint number one. Think about the big picture and where you're aiming for. Like you could be, don't say California from New York, say LA, right? Yeah. Or Tahoe or whatever it is, because you want to pinpoint and just name it. You can change it. You're not locked in. Yeah. At one point I said I wanted to have 20 candy stores. I wanted to have a distribution center that would feed all of those stores. And that was kind of what I was aiming for. So everything I was thinking about that in the back of my mind, and helps you filter through things. And the other part is I would think it's a good question to pose. It doesn't cost you anything. Is if I were to take off the next 6 weeks, let's just say it wasn't for a bad reason, like an accident or health, but let's just say you were on an amazing safari with your family and you just disappeared for 6 weeks, what would happen to your business? Could it survive? Would it thrive? Would it stay the same? And the whys. Why would it fall apart? Right? Would it fall apart in just one area? Well, maybe those are the areas you really should pay attention to and think about how could you shore up those systems so that it wouldn't. Because, we're moms and we're, entrepreneurs, and we think we could do everything and we'll remember everything. But, things happen, right?
Yep.
People sell their businesses, divorce, health. They just get tired. They want to retire. There's partnership problems. Like there's all these different reasons why you might want to exit. And if it's not exitable, now you've got extra work to do ahead of time. So if you could think about that, 20 years out is a great time to think, oh gosh, and you never know. What if somebody showed up today and was like, I want to give you $1 million because I love what you're doing. Could you do it? Because without you going with it, right? Because if it's all in your brain, you have to go with it. There is no business without you. So thinking about that.
Oh, getting all of that, like it's not a mess in your brain. You know what's going on, but getting that actually out there so it's outside of you. Oh man, that's real smart.
Yeah. Well, same for a VA. Or I had a gentleman, he's a sweetie, Jim. He was an electrician. He owned like an electrical company, and he had like 5 guys he wants to sell to his employees. But he was every night up writing out the tickets for the next day, assigning to everybody.
Yeah.
Because he's always done it. Now, so I connected him with a VA from the Philippines, and now she's doing it for him.
Yeah.
Right? Simple solution, not an expensive solution, but he's been the one who's been planning all along. Well, right? And so it's just those little things, and you'll find it kind of gets to be like a fun game of like, how can I get myself out more and more and more? It's like, yeah. And grow, right? Because then you can focus on the things that are your genius.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that thinking ahead, because, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm getting a coaching session with you right now, because, I'm still like, my business is so brand new. I'm still in the first year of the podcast management business. And so like, this is really exciting though, like to see that it definitely is possible.
Mm-hmm. And it's never too late. I don't think it's ever too early to start thinking about that, but it's never too late either. Right. I mean, there are people like my guy who said, it's not, it's not worth it, but I believed. And so if you would take anything from this today, it's that it's never too late to start. Right. And that you can do it. I mean, it's just a matter of doing it.
Right. I love that so much. Well, I want to switch gears a little bit because you have 3 grown children.
I
and
do.
So, they were in like high school, middle school, elementary when you started all these businesses and everything.
Yeah.
How do you think like going on that entrepreneur journey kind of worked into their lives? And, I mean, you talked about them like helping you in the store and how that was an education for them. Like how did that go?
I mean, let's be honest. Okay. So I fired 2 of them multiple times, which is an interesting conversation. My oldest one, she's a doctor. So I feel like, good job, Mom. That's my report card for homeschooling. And I mean, she did the work, but I still like to take some credit because, we don't always get report cards as homeschool moms. So
we don't.
It's nice to get one. And you don't always get paid for it, right? You get paid with hugs and kisses and aggravation sometimes, but never like a report card. Yep. So it's nice to get one every once in a while. Anyway, so she was my very responsible, but she was like, so I'll give my example. She is she's a very introverted. But she learned by being in the candy store how to be like great with customers, great with people, because our livelihood depended on her saying hello to every customer, cleaning in between, all of the pieces that if she just went and worked for somebody else, she maybe wouldn't have cared. But because she could see the ripple effect of not paying attention, being rude to a customer, but they learn these skills that they've taken on to her. Like, so she's a doctor. Those skills are serving her today as a doctor because she's super personable. She knows how to engage with people. She knows how to ask questions. She knows how to read people. Yeah. She knows how to give change where a lot of people on this planet don't know how to do that. Right. I mean, so same for my other 2. I mean, they grew up, one grew up more than the others because he was younger, but they all, I think at the very bottom of when it's all said and done, they all saw by example that you could learn and adapt and overcome and do anything you wanted to do. Right. And that with hard work and the willingness to learn, it's possible. And that was really like, even with homeschooling, that was kind of my goal for them, was that I wanted them to know that anything was possible for them, regardless of whether it was a natural talent or not, that if they knew how to learn and apply themselves, that they could do it. And so, living that out for them was like a blessing. And, they all 3 graduated college, and I'm not a college graduate. So that's kind of cool. And not that college is the be all end all, but, it's just interesting that they all wound up doing it. And they're all doing very professional jobs that they needed college for. My son had his own little entrepreneurial side hustle. And I think he'll come back to it, but he likes money. So being an entrepreneur is not always about, you don't always see it right away. So I think he likes getting a paycheck and not having to worry about all that stuff. But it was amazing. But, for anyone who transitions from homeschool to not homeschool, you feel like you lose this connection, that educational connection with them, right? I mean, teenage is hard and they kind of shut down and you're transitioning and you're learning how to adapt to them being people. But the work part was like I felt like it was like the next step to the things that I was kind of responsible to teach them. And then I had a business owner who said to me, the best thing for your kids is being in your business. Like, don't worry about what customer is maybe grumpy because your kids are here or whatever. This is a family business and they know that, and that grounds them. And I thought that was really good advice when I started, to not like worry about the being professional and all that. Not that I wasn't, but like you worry about things. You worry about, your kids there and, eating out of the candy jars. They grew up eating a lot of candy.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm very grateful now that they all live all these other places. I'm super thankful that I had all that time with them. I don't regret that at all.
Yeah. Well, and that's so great that it made that connection when, like you said, you were kind of missing it from, transitioning out of homeschooling, and
Yeah.
you were able to create that in another way. I think that's
Yep.
so cool, because that's what we want, is we want to be able to connect with our kids. We want to be able to teach them, the stuff that we have learned. And what better way to do that than to bring them into it?
Yeah. Well, and it gives them some ownership.
Yeah.
They might be
Some
disappointed that
pride.
I did. Yes. Well, like I am the candy lady in our town. That just is the way that it is. And like I might miss, a soccer game or whatever, but they know there's a reason. It's not because mom was having coffee. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a bigger reason. And it helped them to understand the reality of like, life is expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, and, so I'm going to say they all paid for their own college. And because I couldn't afford to pay
Yeah.
them. And, that gave them, I think in that little piece, it grounded them a little bit more in the college experience. We have a college in our town here, where we live. And not all of them appreciate the educational opportunity they've been given and how expensive it is. They sleep through class or whatever. But when they're paying for it,
Yeah.
all of a sudden it's a little more valuable.
Yeah.
And so I think that was a great lesson for them. I would have loved to have been a millionaire and been able to pay for it, but I don't know if it would have made them better people.
Yeah.
No. So,
No.
I mean, it's weird to be, go from like all about them to like half about them, right? To not about them at all. I mean, I have a grandson and a granddaughter coming. Yay. But
Yay.
right. And I still talk to them all regular. But this comes, moms, pay attention. Like it goes so fast. I can't believe that, my youngest is 23 and like we had Christmas, or I'm sorry, we had Easter and none of them were here. And I was like, how do you have a holiday without your kid? It's so weird, but it happens. I mean, just logistics, but it's just a different time of life and it's not bad. It's just different. So enjoy it.
Oh,
I do miss it.
I am.
Yeah, good. I'm glad.
I have great kids. They're 7 and 8, so I've got a long ways before they move out. Yeah.
Before they're grown. It goes so fast. Yeah. They're the best thing you ever do. I mean, gosh.
They are.
They totally are.
Yep. I love to hear that point of view because growing a business can really kind of take everything from you. Yeah. Or not from you, but like everything you have, you kind of put into the business. But I think that's so important to be able to bring the kids into it because they are the best things that we're going to do. They are like these little people that we're putting out into the world.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we're responsible for that. I mean, I took that really seriously. I figured once I hit 18, it wasn't really my job anymore. Like, and your control is over. You could try to have influence, but at 18, you're kind of
good luck.
You're out of luck. Yeah. And so I took it really seriously. Like that, I was responsible for who I put out into the world, and the world would have to deal with them. So I wanted it to be a pleasant process and a beneficial process for the world, not terrible.
I'm sure it is. Your kids sound great.
They are amazing. They are. And, they grew up. Listen, I was always a very independent person, even in marriage. I just was someone who's very driven and very responsible and inquisitive and independent. And so I kind of raised them all to be pretty independent. Yeah. So I get what I asked for, right? Is that so when they all move away and do that, they don't always need mom anymore.
Yeah.
it's an adjustment, but you know what? That's what I wanted for them. I didn't want
It's a
them to
good
be,
thing.
it's a great thing. You don't, independent thinkers. You know what? We don't talk politics anymore, me and my children, because, right? They
Let's just
may
not go
change their
there.
mind. No, but I'm saying like they have their own beliefs now and they're entitled to them. I don't
Yeah.
have to agree, but like that
But you
because
still love each other and you can still get
of
along.
course, of course. And I'll love them no matter what. I
Yep.
mean, no matter what. So, but I did my job in that they're individual, independent people. And that's kind of, I always felt like was the goal.
Oh, I love that so much.
I'm so
I'm gonna,
glad.
yeah, I'm gonna end on that note because that was just, I mean, that's what we're here for, right? These mom
Yeah.
entrepreneurs, they're possibly thinking like, how am I going to possibly do it all, own
Right.
this business and raise my
Yep.
kids? And it's not really a matter of doing it all. It's finding what's important, right?
Yes. And you're not going to do it all. I mean,
No.
somebody said that to me once with homeschooling, like you're going to miss things. But if they know the overarching
Yeah.
things, like how to learn, how to apply, how to focus, right? Those basic things, then
Yeah.
the rest, they'll be able to fill in the gaps, and that
Yeah.
God is with them and will work that out for them. Because it's so much pressure, as a mom, we put so much pressure on ourselves to like make sure we take care of everything and cover everything. And it's just an unreasonable expectation of ourselves.
And it puts
We're
the pressure on
people.
them too, because then
It
they're
does.
like validating us as people.
Yes.
Like that's
Mhm.
not okay.
No, it's not okay. I mean, we're here to serve them and
Yep.
raise them up to be their own people, right? And the big picture, we had this one kid and he was like, it was when we first were homeschooling. We homeschooled in like the late 90s
Yeah.
and 2000. So it wasn't as common then. And the school systems were not as accommodating, right? COVID has made it a lot more accommodating. But we had kids who were like, not potty trained till later, not reading in like they were 7 or 8. And like the moms were just freaking out. And really the bottom line was like, and this is the help of having the support group or like a connection with other people who are doing it, is that, he's not going to go to college, not potty trained. I mean, it's going to like eventually, it may not be when you want it, because kids are like that, or it's same for like, they're not going to not know how to read. I mean, it's at some point, it's going to
click.
Yes. Yes. I had a daughter who was, she was doing the same work as her sister. She was 20 months younger, but she was doing the same work, and fractions for whatever, she just couldn't get it. This is my daughter graduated with a math degree. Like just her brain wasn't ready. There are times where their brains are not ready and it's just not connecting. And then all of a sudden, boom, it happens. So I just, this is the nice part about homeschooling, is there's room for individuality.
Right.
And for grace, like it's going to come, right? You just keep trying. So
just keep going.
Yeah,
I love it.
Keep swimming.
Just keep swimming.
That's right. Exactly. We'll end with Finding Nemo.
Yes.
Exactly.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for this, Tracy. I want to, if anybody wants to know about what you do and where to find you, like tell us where they can find your candy store and your business as well.
Okay. So the candy store, it's called Life is Sweet. It's lifeissweetcandystore.com. So we're on there. We do, this is something great. We do a free birthday club. You get free candy for your birthday. So you can sign up your kids and all that. And if you don't live close, what we'll do is we'll mail it to you, just cover shipping, and we mail it. We triple the candy and we mail it to you. So that's a fun, easy thing that you can do. That's and then you can kind of be on our list and know what we're doing. We send jokes every day because we want to make everyone's life sweet. So we do all kinds of fun stuff. And then my business is the easiest one to go to is howtoexityourbusiness.com. We have some free workshops on there. We do every couple of weeks, we do a free masterclass that kind of introduces how you get your valuation of your business, how to create an exit strategy, how to evaluate maybe what's missing and what you should work on, and create a roadmap to fixing the things that are maybe missing. And then we have a worksheet about like, should you sell now? Because, sometimes the time is right. People are looking, the right buyers there.
Yeah.
It's always a possibility. And then you
Yeah.
can start the next thing. That's what we do, right?
Yeah.
The next thing.
Right. Always.
Yep. Always the next thing. That's right.
Oh, I love it. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. I'm sorry about my voice. I have a cold.
I can barely even tell.
Oh, good. I'm glad because I feel very squeaky. So sorry if I hurt anybody's ears, but I was so excited to be talking to you. So I wanted to show up.
Oh.
So.
Thank you for joining me for today's Mamas at Work podcast. I am so glad you were here, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did and learned a lot, because I know I always do. Please join me at my Mamas at Work Facebook group, where we will be talking about the women that are on this podcast, and you can sign up to be a guest on the podcast as well if you would like to. Thank you so much. See you next Friday.